Good evening, everybody. We are here for the Fayette County School Corporation Board of School Trustees Business Meeting. It is Tuesday, July 12th, 2022. We are here in the administration building. Let's all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're going to begin with our friends from Gibraltar to come in and share more updates.
So, first of all, thank you for having us back. It's truly my pleasure. I'm Jennifer McCormick. I'm the chairman of the board for Gibraltar. I brought our A-team with us, so I want to reintroduce them. You've met them once, but I know how that goes. You have Jim Thompson, who is the president, Mike Rosillo, who is our senior project manager, architect extraordinaire, kind of an amazing partner for our schools. And we also are blessed to have Darren Shedrow, who is a graduate architect with us, who is kind of scary smart and just has great promise. So we are excited to have the A-team with you. So I want to start out by thanking all of you, and Superintendent Collins, Randy, Kim, your team has been amazing to work with us, and that is not taken for granted or ever over assumed. So thank you for that, giving us access to what we need, getting to know the facilities, and so you're extremely busy. This is that time of the year where people stop you in the grocery and go, do you work in the summer? Yeah, I work in the summer. So thank you for everything and getting us in here. So a couple of things that I'm going to turn it over to Jim. First of all, so you know in the coming months what's going to happen. So this is the part I love because of my background in education. This is that educational environment piece where we come in over the next few months and we will work with your administrators, we will work with your staff and say what are those opportunities to change that educational environment to impact curriculum instruction. And so that's, in my opinion, why we're doing this. It's all for the kids. And so that piece will be very, very collaborative. We will get to know what your expectations are, your wishes are with that piece, but also try to get a feel for those community values that are so important in that process. So that'll be coming in the soon to be coming months. It'll take us a little bit of time, and that'll be a process, but just know it'll be very, very collaborative because that's important because obviously it's your community, they're your buildings. So with that, now I'm going to turn it over to Jim. He is going to explain where we are with the facility study and that process, and also a little bit about the pool this evening. So I'm going to turn it over to Jim.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
We really appreciate being here and continuing to be your partner. Jennifer's absolutely right. Administrative team is terrific. And then we'd be remiss if we didn't mention Daryl and Jimmy and the facilities team. I mentioned to Randy, your staff, eventually, when you retire, a whole library of knowledge right with it. And I may have said this at the last board meeting, our inventory of information is a way for you to get some of that library documented before that happens. How many of you are from elementary ed? Those guys. Remember this? Remember what we call it? I love it when I learn multiple. So what is it called? Multi-syllable word. So what would we call it if I'm passing around to kids?
Rust bucket.
Rust bucket.
A manipulative. It's a manipulative, right?
Oh.
It's like instruction, right?
Real name for it.
Yeah, so I'm not going to pass this part around, but I'm going to.
Oh yeah, the breast.
I brought another manipulative because it's relevant to tonight as we introduce facility assessments preliminarily. We haven't validated this with Jimmy and Daryl, but this is my second manipulative. So it's a question. What does this represent? And why is it important to everyone in this room? What does this represent?
This is hard.
Why is it important to everyone in this room? And I can't take too much time, otherwise Randy's going to start clicking and say, "Keep going, Jim." Any guesses?
That's who we are, we're the Spartans.
Right, yeah, that's your logo. Bye. So,
Looks like
I give you the answer. It's 1 square foot, right?
wow.
It represents 1 square foot, 12 inches by 12 inches.
Cool.
And it costs money. It costs money to build new. It costs money to renovate. It's a unit of measure for the effectiveness of the learning environments that Jennifer said. Is a room too big? Wasted space, so wasted dollars and square footage, or too small? meaning it's ineffective. So it's a unit measure. Also expensive to operate in some communities, depending on your utility costs and so forth. So it represents 1 square foot. Pass that around. So hoping with that manipulative you remember what that means. Besides rusted pipes, which are also expensive. Okay, so what are we going to do tonight? Facilities first. I think in the interest of your time, because the majority of this facility information is preliminary, and we're going to have a meeting here very soon with facility staff. They have some of this information themselves, and we're going to review it and update. But I'll just kind of go through at a high level. You can certainly stop me or interrupt me. The second presentation we're going to give is about the pool. It's in a little more depth. Mike will walk you through that. My sense is you might have more questions, so we're going to try and balance it, maybe 70% on pool, 30% tonight on time with facilities. So let's get going, Randy. And so these first few pages in the presentation, that's the calendar. So we just talked about where we're at in July and in August, getting some learning input and validating some things. And pretty soon getting ready for any type of bond issue you may want to do for 2022, 2023 improvements. These assessment pages, think of this as getting from a school board stewardship point of view, a little bit more knowledgeable about what you have. We may digitize this separately for your administrative team to send it out to you. So if you ever want to be reminded, I wonder how big that school was, now that I've given you a indicative on square footage. Or I wonder what that building looks like. I can't remember it, haven't been in a while. So that's what these pages represent. And we like to organize, if you just keep going, besides the district overview and data of square footage, each of these building pages, you can see it's kind of a site snapshot. And I will tell you, your sites vary. It's not uncommon in a growing school district back in the day for you to have some sites downtown, you have rural sites, and the acreage varies and so forth, so don't be alarmed by that. Then we have the square footages of the buildings and just some basic floor plans to keep you oriented. We have the aspect of the hill, as you call it, for the high school, floor plans of that, square footages. The square footages are meaningful for us because sometimes we like to very quickly look and say, how many square feet per student? So a rule of thumb might be maybe 150 square feet for elementary schools or elementary, middle, but you might be over 200 square feet on a high school. So that just very quickly gives you some sense of how the building's behaving, serving the needs of the students. And on the hill, we also inventoried in the last weeks the Career Center and those other buildings. Okay, existing conditions. And I'll just get you started on this, and then Mike will take over and go through a couple things. If you remember how we talked about the empty boxes, so to speak, means things are good, they might be new, fairly new, or they might be items that really don't change over a period of time. Then the dark box catches hopefully everyone's attention. Surprises might be lurking there. Things might be extended beyond their normal service life. Again, don't be alarmed, because some things with your maintenance team like you have, in fact they had a nickname for one of the chillers, so it's like Old Faithful. So they just, you know, in the 1980s when my father was doing architecture and I was just getting started, things like boilers and chillers, they could last 40 years if you had the right technicians and people doing it. Nowadays, the way manufacturing is, it's maybe like cars, a little bit like cars. You're not going to get that 40-year service life. But for our job, we need to tell you that it is beyond the normal industry standard. But it does start to catch your attention and help you prioritize. So what we've given you tonight is the preliminary information. This is the information that's going to be reviewed by our team and engineers with your team. The way I like to encourage school boards to look at this, because you're trying to maybe get your arms just sort of generally wrapped around it, you can look maybe vertically in a building and start to see where things were attended to, or there might be, remember the half box is sort of, it's right in the middle, see where black boxes are. Sometimes what happens too though is if you look horizontally, it's not uncommon for districts over a period of 20 years to say, hey, we're going to do all the roofs. So you might look horizontally and say, oh, all the roofs are like new. Yeah, because we did district-wide roofing 3 years ago. Or you might have done all the boilers, or you might have done all the chillers. So I think you look vertically to see how's a particular building doing. Is there something in that building that's a lurking surprise? And you could look district-wide if you look horizontally and said, how are all of our elementary schools doing with heating plant or the cooling? So hopefully that's helpful to you. And again, this is preliminary, and we're circling back and finishing it in a final form here in the next month by the time we get to the next board meeting. We keep going. You can see we'll go building by building. I'll get you started with the middle school, and then Mike can fill in. Randy, go back one. I just want to point out a slight difference. So on each building, just roll. I wanted you to see the column, and you see I put it in bold with a bullet for you, the life expectancy. So that's that comment where things can last longer than they normally would, depending on maintenance. So the middle column is how many years your systems or components have been in service. And some of the blanks have to do with needing to cross-reference our information with your team, because it's preliminary. The right-hand column is the actual generally accepted industry life expectancy. So if you do the difference between the two, you can see where things are older than expected or going to
So
be.
we got our money's worth on those exhaust fans.
Oh, yeah.
They're 64 years old.
Well, exhaust fans are funny because, you know, they're like in locker rooms and they're
Yeah, I
in
know.
storage rooms and they just discharge air. And so unless someone walks in and says, boy, that really stinks, and, you know, just it's not exhausting. And you just forget about it and they break and they just sit there broken. And they're not essential to like a classroom, so they tend to fall behind. Lots of districts have that. But yes, that's how it works. You're reading it just fine. The next slide is a narrative version. So some of you that maybe like to just read a story, so to speak, you might appreciate bullet points. Primary is things that jumped out at us that we want to chat and have a little more conversation with your team. Secondary items are also catching our attention, but they maybe aren't as urgent or they're not as prevalent in terms of priority in our minds. But that's all to be vetted by your team and our team. So Mike, maybe you want to quickly bounce through a couple of the other buildings and.
Sure. Thank you, Jim.
So high school.
As Jim has started to live with the middle school, we continue the same process with the remaining buildings on the hill as well. Let me back up just a second. A couple of weeks ago, we sent out a team of architects and engineers, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineers, to walk all the facilities in the district. They brought with them years of experience, and they walked through the buildings, and we've done this a number of times. So they made observations, and these are very preliminary, what you're looking at here, okay? We will follow up and make it more finalized, I guess, after we review with Randy, Daryl, and Jimmy. Jimmy's phenomenal. I think he's been in the district over 40 years, and he knows, there's nobody that knows more about these facilities than Jimmy. So we shared these documents with Jimmy, and he's looking at them, and I've sent him some more documents today. But we're going to sit down with those folks this Thursday, actually, and we're going to review what our observations are and what Jimmy and Daryl and Randy's observations are and put them together. So we're all on the same page with these. And then the next board meeting, we'll come back, because we'll know what those observations are and have a really good understanding. We'll come back with some considerations for the facilities. We may even start talking about maybe what some of those ideas are with Jimmy and Randy this Thursday. You know, what are some of the more critical items in the district to be looked at? So let's go ahead and go to the high school. I don't have my glasses here, I apologize. But like Jim said, this is a really quick look at knowing what the life expectancies are of the different mechanical electrical systems in the building. Those are industry standards that you see on the right. The one in the center are what we understand to be the life, what we understand to be the age of the equipment. And then as Jim said, the boxes to the left, you know, if we've got something well beyond the life expectancy of the equipment, you'll see a black box on there. And those are more critical, maybe some things that we need to look at the beginning. Some highlights for the high school: chillers, boilers, and air handling equipment, whether it's Old Faithful or restoration of it or replacement of it. Those are things we'll talk to Jimmy about in our meeting. Secondary, maybe some things that are meeting use of your facilities, but maybe you're beyond, maybe or nearing life expectancy, we would think are secondary. There's a lot of galvanized piping in the building, both domestic and hydronic, but that tends to corrode over time, and you start to get leaks and things like that. So we see that very common in older buildings, to replace that with copper piping, for example. Floor finishes are some of the spaces in the high school floor finishes, or maybe because of the life of the finish, maybe look at replacing that or updating that. Roofs, warranty, we need to look at that, review that as well. Accessibility to restrooms especially, in areas of the building, make sure ADA, look at ADA compliance. Again, ADA compliance, you don't have to bring it up because it's there, but if you're doing new construction or remodeling, you have to consider about doing that per today's codes and upgrades. And then we look through in this building, there is some casework showing signs of age in some of the areas.
So you're saying with ADA compliance in old buildings, you're not required to have those up to date?
Unless you're doing new construction in that area. For example, if we go into an area of the building and you're building new restrooms, you would have to build those restrooms per ADA. But if you're not doing anything or remodeling the restroom, it's fine to leave it the way it is. It's only if you're upgrading or remodeling that area.
Probably the administrative recommendation we would make is you probably have a sense of who's in your community and who has needs. Probably no different than special needs students, like when you do case reports and things and you have the advocates of those children. You would want to maybe anticipate that they're coming into a building, and we always recommend it's a conversation, right, with the parents, and pretty common sense things. If you're a middle school learner trying to acclimate with other children and you are in a wheelchair, but you have to go around the building and in a separate entrance,
Yeah, right.
more than likely the parents can say, hey, let's get this better because my child's perfectly fine and they don't need to be segregated like that moving around the building. So you would want to be proactive, almost just kind of common sense, and you'd be doing that anyway.
Right.
But when you get into things like basketball, stadium arenas and bigger things, older gyms, the building codes are not so rigid.
Okay.
Doesn't mean people can't still complain though.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. I actually got to be part of the assessment team for the high school athletic fields, and these were observations that I noticed. I did look at the football building. I was trying to find an appropriate word to explain what that looks like.
We're sorry about that.
So I apologize if it offends somebody, but architecturally maybe not the most pleasing structure on campus. It's also next to the grandstands where a lot of people can see it, and it's right next to the football field. The interior locker rooms in that building are, as you know, probably inadequate. The showers, the restrooms are really not large enough for football players to use. And urinals are probably less than 2 feet from a wall. It's just really cramped in there. It's very poor ventilation. I don't know if it's because of the time of year I went to look at it, but it didn't smell very good, and there were bugs on the floor and roaches, and it just, I didn't want to be in there long, but I did what I had to do. And the roof structure on it, I think there was an addition done at one time. Right now the roof structure is really low, and it'd be really difficult to come back and improve the HVAC systems because of how low it is. You really don't want football players, touching the ductwork or some of the piping that might be underneath if you're upgrading the building that way. Along with the football building was a football and track field. That shouldn't say building, it's a football and track field. That is a natural turf field. It appears to be in good condition. There is older galvanized fencing around the football field. Original construction, I'm not sure why that's in there, that next little line. But again, there's limited ADA access on the wood ramp to the grandstands. The grandstands do have wood planks, like treated wood planks that are all kind of rot, they're aged. They've just not had a lot of attention over the years. The softball complex is, in my opinion, is one of the nicer softball complexes I've seen in the state of Indiana. It's a very nice complex. You've got two nice softball fields. One's a lighted competition field, and then the practice field is newer as well. All new fencing around the fields, new concessions. There's a new multi-purpose concession building, dugouts, nice brand new bleacher seating, a lot of concrete paving around that. It's very nice, very nice. Baseball has one turf field with lighting. I didn't see a second field, so I don't know how that Title I works with softball and baseball, but there is only one field on baseball. I noticed when I went out there the morning of, we had some rain, and so when I walked on the field, I noticed like the infield, there's water ponding around the bases, so that's signs of maybe the clay is compacted and it's not draining the way it should be. Let's see, the dugouts on the baseball field were they're in fair condition, but like the wood trusses and the wood roof haven't been painted. Maybe just refreshing the dugouts would help. Tennis next to the pool that I looked at, there's 6 lighted courts that appear to be in good condition. Fencing is good, the windscreens are good, so they seem to be in nice shape. Soccer field right next to the softball, that's one natural turf competition field. It has newer goalpost and electronic scoreboard. Again, all that seems to be in very nice condition.
So we did this for all buildings. We purposely were very thorough with the athletic fields and site because we'd heard kind of preemptively that could we just take a really close look at that and help you tonight, even get your arms locked around that tonight. And then all the other buildings, as we just ran it and just clicked through these and see, they're all inventoried the same way. We need to meet with your staff and kind of get these things highlighted so that, because when you have the number of buildings, it probably means you're either going to want to attack one building in more depth or just pick off like a primary item across 5 buildings, if that makes sense to you on your relative to the things on the hill. So that's how we inventory all these, and when we come back next time, we'll be able to, if you need to, we'll talk in a little more depth after you have a chance to absorb some of this. What's next with this, as we said, get the learning input. Some staff surveys need to be sorted through, figure out how we're going to do that in August. And then we'll be getting to, on our own, with some input from the district, as Mike said, prioritize some of the things we already have seen to be helpful with you. And there's a couple of dates about principal meetings coming up. As Jennifer said, we're really excited about that piece because it's really important here in the community. Okay, anybody want to go for a swim?
Not sure.
Not sure. Okay, good answer. All right, pool assessment. I'm going to just kind of give you a high level, and then Mike will go through about 10 minutes, kind of the highlights of the assessment for the pool. What I'm going to suggest is you're going to be taking in a lot of information. I'm going to give you a perspective of kind of what we experience having done pools all over the state. And then, to me, it feels like something that you're going to want to talk again. So we'll be ready at the next board meeting as well to talk. Some things about pools, and I was joking with Mike, I think we decided it wasn't 30 years, but Mike's probably had over 22 years of swimming pool experience, because when your youngest child starts at like age 9, and then you have 4 children all spaced out, that's a lot of years to be in a pool watching each of them swim. So you've been there and lived that, done that, Leslie. Yeah, so, but here's, from my perspective, some things at a school. You're going to be interested as a school board. Okay, what are the most glaring or most prominent deficiencies? And you have a nice asset, a beautiful asset for the community, so where are the big deficiencies that a school board would want to know about relative to a pool? you'd certainly want to know if there's something maybe alarming as we go through this assessment. And gee, you may want to, in August, say, well, are any of these things such that we'd be negligent if we didn't look into it? Sometimes what happens is there's like a minimum standard of care, and that's sort of it's part objective, because there are just some practical things. If we built a new pool, the gutter would be like this, the drain system would be like this, the filtration system would be like this. But, you know, in school boards, that's not practical for every time there's a pool concern to just say, oh, let's throw that one out and we'll start over. So, but there is we would like to make sure you felt really well informed about that standard of care, so that when you initiate dollars, and for pools with 1 square foot, that's a higher dollar than a classroom, you want to know you're really making a good investment, which kind of leads to sort of an oxymoron when we say like peace of mind and swimming pool. Those two things are hard to get aligned, but I would imagine as a school board, you would like a peace of mind when you invest millions. And then the last thing you're going to be asking is, well, if we spend X and we get that peace of mind, how do we feel about that swimming pool when we look at pools in our conference, pools in the neighboring counties? You know, how do we feel we are, not that you're trying to compete with the Joneses, but you just want to know you have a level of a swimming pool that you can be proud of for the next 15 years. And however that, and sometimes that's just I don't think your perceptions or what you feel is appropriate is going to be wrong, because you're in touch with what seems right. And if you need us to go get some information about some other pools, we can do that for you. But tonight, we just want to help you get your arms wrapped around that for the next 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, Mike.
On the pool, like Jim said, I've been around pools for a while and done different types of pool designs and through my career. But I have spent a lot of time in pools like yours, where a 6-lane pool is very common in central Indiana. It used to be, and as schools start to develop their swim programs, whether it's competition or community use or just use for the high school or middle school, I am seeing that more and more people are going towards 8-lane pools. Some are even going to what we call a stretch pool. And that's really because of the flexibility a larger pool provides, and also the efficiency that you can run a swim meet, whether it's high school or club program. So, but what we're seeing now, that you do have a 6-lane pool, it's a competition pool, and can continue to be in a competition pool. With me is our pool consultant, Water Technologies Incorporated. We went out and looked at your pool, and we walked the very detailed report, and we're actually working on a finalized report of your facility. And we will have that eventually to share with you. But what you're seeing today are just some general ideas, is what we've observed. The exterior of the building, you can see the entrance has a pool mechanical system. That's a dehumidification system that's on top of the roof of the school. It was installed in about 2011, 2012. It was made in 2010. So it's still got probably another good 10 years of life in the building. But if you think about expanding the pool, that unit will no longer be large enough for a larger facility. So it does serve what you have now, and it serves it well. The picture to the right is of the natatorium, and you can see the bleachers off to the right, 6-lane pool. Locker rooms, I looked through the locker rooms. They appear to be in very nice condition, well taken care of. We don't see a lot of lockers all smashed in or anything like that, so they're in good shape. Go to the next one, Randy. Some considerations maybe to look at here is on the interior of the pool room. The original walls on the pool room have ceramic tile on the walls, and they are compromised. By that I mean the tile is actually pulling off the concrete block wall. You can knock on it, it's very hollow. And that happened because there were no control joints put in the tile. When the wall expands, it buckles now. So all that's compromised on that area there. So I would see that as a critical item in the pool room. The water filtration system, something to look at later, is the efficiency of what type of equipment you put in that space. HVAC, like I said, works fine for now. It has a pool heater in a lower level room. Pool heaters are known not to last very long in pool environments. It's not that old a system, but you might want to start thinking about being replaced in the future, and that could be anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 just for the pool heater. Lifeguarding, the pool's used for that, and related safety. Some secondary ideas of maybe refreshing or painting locker rooms. The pool lighting in there, you might want to look at maybe the lighting levels are very low. Newer systems like LED systems can provide higher light levels, and they're around the perimeter of the pool. I also understand from, I think it's Randy, who was telling me they have a very difficult, not Randy, Jimmy, that you have a very difficult time changing light fixtures because they're so close to the water. So when they bring in a lift, the wheels of the lift are in the gutter, and it's pretty risky, he was telling me about, so that you do have concerns about how you change light fixtures currently. Some opportunities might include maybe reconfiguring the pool lighting, the pool itself for athletic and community use. Here's a picture on the lower right. That is a what we call a dry well, and in this case, all that's in that dry well are pool pipes and valves that go into the pool equipment room. So there's really no need for anybody to go down there very often. There's not really a ladder to get down. The light didn't work, so it was risky for us to even get down in there. But that is on the pool deck right behind diving blocks.
Can we go back to that slide? On the primary, you didn't spend a lot of time, but the configuration, what we were told when another company came in, or another inspector, was our deck drainage and that piping was a huge concern, and that was going to be the big dollar. Is that what you told us too? Okay.
Thank you for pointing that out. I went right over that. Currently, your pool has I think it's called a French style gutter system, and your pool deck has no pool deck drains. Back when they built this pool, that was common to actually take the water from the deck and drain it into the pool. Nowadays, you don't do that. If you were building a new pool, you would never allow the water to drain into the pool. So you've got spectators that come in on the pool deck, separated from the bleacher seating and the pool by a rope. So whatever foot traffic they bring in, that dirt does go down into the pool water, as well as any other impurities on the pool deck goes into the water. And one of the things you'll see in here is when we propose some of these costs is replacing, there's rusted piping, gutter piping behind the gutter now. It's metal piping that's corroded. We believe that it needs to be replaced. And the time you replace that is also the time you'd want to think about replacing the gutter for a complete system. It's called trench style, not a French style gutter deck. There are pool inlets in the bottom of the pool. That's where the water actually comes in and fills the pool. All the galvanized cover plates in the center of the pool, if you've been there, you'll notice there's a lot of rust stains around it. Some of those covers are loose, and they probably need to be tightened down, and either that or replaced, each cover drain. Picture on the bottom lower left is an example of that gutter pipe I was telling you about. That's rusted. We also noticed that there's a lot of water leaking from the pool into the filtration room. That's where you see some of those white stains. It looks like some of that's coming from the top of the wall. We also found some pictures where there's cracks in the wall and the water's coming through. It's not coming in through a lot, but part of all this, we would recommend maybe some type of a leak detection and understand where those leaks are actually coming from. So we don't know where they are all coming from, but we do see evidence that the water is leaking out of the pool. The other thing I noticed is on the pool deck, there's very little pool storage. So anything for swimming or for any athletic program, that's the only storage room they have.
Or it sits on the deck.
Yeah, so what they do is you take up deck space by putting storage on the deck space. Okay, what we've got here is looking at three options. for facility improvements. And these are just 3 of many that possibly could happen. Pool improvements, what it would take to bring the pool you have now up to a state-of-the-art 6-lane competition pool and all new, and something that's going to last for another 20 years before you start changing systems in the building. Option 2, pool renovation and addition, what it would take maybe to expand that pool to maybe an 8-lane pool. And then option 3 will be an option for a brand new pool, 8-lane stretch pool. Go ahead. Like I was saying before, I think one of the things we need to do to bring this to a like-new condition is first survey the length of the pool. The pool right now, I brought out my laser and measured the length of the pool. It's not as accurate as having a surveyor go out there who's going to lower the water, put his laser on the face of the wall, and measure the face of the wall. Swimming is very, in order for a pool to be certified by USA Swimming or even Indiana Swimming, it's got to meet a certain length. And anything less than 75 feet is not a regulation competition course, technically. You can make it a little bit longer, but you can't make it shorter. If you think about it, somebody who's swimming maybe a 500 or a 200 and doing a series of laps, that micro measurement could add up to seconds. And if the officials know that it's not a regulation course, that time doesn't count for maybe for that student, maybe who wants to go to state or whatever, has a state cut or something like that. So one of the first things we would say is survey the length of the pool to see exactly how long it is, and then decide whether or not you want to do anything about that. Now, when pools get to a certain length, and you're talking about micro inches like that, they're easy to adjust by just chipping away the concrete and making it a little bit longer. But that's something you probably would want to look at. The other thing is repair pool leaks, obviously.
You said you measured it. What was your measurement?
I came up exactly with 75 feet.
Oh.
When you put a touchpad in there, now it's less than 75 feet.
Oh, interesting.
So again, I was looking straight down, and it's not as accurate as a surveyor.
Right.
So the drawings said the pool was 75 feet, 1/2 inch, and if they built it that way, you're fine. You're fine. Because a touchpad is less than 1/2 inch. Concrete steps, the pool doesn't have any, I'm sorry, this is regarding the northeast entry. You have to go down to the filtration rooms, and there's an entry on the southeast corner of the pool. When you go out through that, those concrete steps are corroded. They're not in the best shape, plus they don't have railings on that, so you might want to look at updating that. The exterior of the building, some of the metal fascia panels around there are oil can. That means they're bent in, and maybe the finish on needs to be more up to date. Talked about replacing the tile gutter with a new stainless steel gutter in an integral deck drain system. So the deck drain is part of the gutter system. The ceramic tile finish on the pool deck has been there for 40 years. It looks like it's been well used.
It's a nice way to word that.
So yeah, and then like I said, the look at replacing the pool lighting system. These are just some pictures of a before and after. This is what a stainless steel gutter system. It's level with the water surface, and then the integral drain is behind the gutter. And then the picture of what you have.
Of course, to do that, you would have to widen.
Yeah, you'd have to remove the existing gutter, and it goes down the wall a little bit and onto the pool deck. And right behind that gutter is where that pipe I was talking about.
Right.
So you may have to remove, up to 4 or 5 feet behind the pool wall to do all that. So it's removes some of the concrete deck. So if you came back there later, you could come and put a pattern like this where you actually ripped up the floor and leave the existing tile, or if you want to redo all the tile, that's an option too. Here's a picture of what possibly you could do with the walls in the pool area. I've done where we just painted the walls, and in this case on the left, this is Hobart pool, where we took the ceramic tile and did a pattern with it, so it's kind of a wavy thing. And then the picture on the right, you can see your tile goes up about I think it's about 12 feet on the walls around the pool. Option 2, this is a very quick diagram. I wanted to see how it would actually fit on the site if you considered going from a 6-lane pool to an 8-lane pool. And the existing structure would remain intact, and we basically would provide a large girder truss and blow out that wall and then extend the pool room to the south and put new pool seating in there. And that would show an 8-lane pool with adequate circulation or deck space around the pool. It also includes some space for new storage as well. Option 3, what does a new 8-lane stretch pool look like? Here's some bullet points of considerations. You have a movable bulkhead, 8 lanes, and then you have a diving well. And normally you put the deep end of the pool with a diving well close to the filtration room. It makes things a little bit more economical.
If it's movable, what's the distance if you take that centerpiece out? That piece out?
The diving wells, normally you need at least about 40 feet for clearance, whether it's a wall or bulkhead. So when you're running a high school meet, right now you have to stop, run diving, and then pick up again. With the 8-lane stretch, you can run diving and swimming concurrently.
But you can't take that stretch piece out and make it at 25 meter?
Yes, you can. Yeah, but so the bulkhead moves. The bulkhead can go anywhere you want in the pool. So if you're using it for competition, this might show you one way to lay it out for competition. If you're using it for practice, you can, if you're talking 25 meter, you can move it all the way down to the end of the pool, and it'd be used for 8 lanes of 25 meter practice. With an 8-lane pool, one thing it doesn't do that a 10-lane pool does, a 10-lane pool gives you the option of running additional practice lanes across the pool. It's wide enough, it's 75 feet. A 10-lane pool is 75 feet wide. But with an 8-lane pool, your choice is just running the length of the pool, and you're limited to 8 lanes. So yeah, and then during swim meets, the diving area can be used for additional warm up for events, whether it's high school or club. Like I said, it's a movable bulkhead. Bulkheads are normally easy enough for one person or 2 people to move up and down the pool. They float and you can move them very easily. You do it all the time. The picture down in the lower left corner shows an example of a stretch pool, as well as on the right shows an example. The one on the right shows 2 bulkheads that are put together. So you bulkheads come in 4, 5, and 6 foot lengths, and some people take 2 bulkheads. If you've got 2 in a pool, move them together, give you a larger platform for officials, swimmers, people who are counting laps. It just gives you more space on the bulkhead. And then with this option 3, we're looking at new spectator seating. The spectator seating you have now are metal bleachers. They are rusting. I did talk to, I think it was Daryl, and he said that they still are operable, so they still work. So I think one of the things you might want to consider, if they do work, just recondition them, maybe new finishes, maybe replace motors or something like that on there, but it does still work. But if you're looking at a new option 3, I would think you'd probably look at more permanent seating, maybe like concrete or something like that, that doesn't not affected by the humidity and the chlorine atmosphere like the metal bleachers are. The reason they put that in, those bleachers, and we see that sometimes, is it gives the owner more deck space to do dry land for diving, things like that, or even the swimmers. When you don't have that dry land, sometimes the swimmers are using the gym or the corridors for dry land practice. Here's an idea what that might look like on the site, and you can see that the entire pool is the existing pool structure is all removed. It would be totally removed, and you're building all new where the existing pool is. We'd still look at probably having a filtration room on the lower level. You would have a larger pool body of water and a larger spectator seating as well with this facility. If the pool expands to the left, which is what, your west, that would impact your existing weight room. So you might want to, probably would have to consider reconfiguring the weight room before it allow the pool to expand if you're going that direction. Another option is maybe don't do anything to that and expand the pool down to the south where you see that dashed line is showing. So that, one of the tricky things on this site is the grade on the site. It's pretty steep. You know, you have to walk in from the parking lot to the entry of the pool. It's pretty steep. So, you know, whether option, if you looked at either of these options, we'd have to look at what the most feasible option might be based upon the grades on the site. And you're building a pool above, basically what you're doing is building a pool above grade. Okay? Those are the options and some ideas how the pools are used, either by the school or the community. You've got all kinds of things you can use the pool for besides competition. It's for the community, the school, all kinds of learning possibilities in a pool.
So if we could go back one slide. So on the three options, and if you remember some of my questions like peace of mind and 20-year thinking and what are other communities thinking and kind of how all that fits together, if you were to start to think outside of just the 6 lanes you already have and maybe bringing that up to an acceptable level, whether we do gutters or not, and lighting and so forth. Let's say that's like one goalpost. So it's like that's the left side, so that'd be like a minimum thought. On the right-hand side might be the goalpost, which is if we want to invest and think vision 20 years and do something new, this would be some of the dialogue, however this looks and is spoken about, that would be one of the things, what are we getting for our money? I see that we're investing heavily in our pool, whether it's $4 million or $6 million, more than that. This is where you would be headed. You'd start to see that this pool becomes a recreational asset for the community. It becomes, whether it be learning how to paddleboard or kayak, scuba diving, all those different, water means different things to different people, but we have a lot of lakes in Indiana, and it tends to be a fairly recreational aspect, and so that would be the dialogue. And you probably need to look around and say, well, where else do people go to recreate with water? The lower left picture is actually co-curricular, I think would be the term. So these are kids in a science class who have to build a boat, and then they have to paddle it. And so there's co-curricular activity that gets them thinking about how would I do this? How would the boat be designed? Does it float? How does physics work with floating? So that also gives you an aspect of thinking. So to these goalposts, if we go to the next slide, very preliminarily are budgets. The exact numbers are not at all relevant right now. Not at all relevant. It's those goalposts. Minimal investment just to get up to a standard of care. Big picture, if we went and reached for something like the last picture we just saw, new. One of the things that makes these very preliminary is if you think about what Mike said about your contours or your site, the slopes and those things. So there'd be a lot more investigation, but I think what it does, it says, well, we're either going to kick it to the left inside the goalpost or kick it to the right inside the goalpost, but kind of for tonight gives you a nice frame of reference for a range. And go slow, think this through, because pools are not like saying, oh, I want to change this classroom to be a STEM room. Once you do it, you want to make sure it's there for the long term. And we have all the resources and information we can provide for you to do that. So I think in wrapping up with Superintendent and anyone else, do you have any questions tonight, burning questions, wrap-up comments, Superintendent Collins, or any of the board members?
So I saw somewhere there's going to be a survey. Is that for the staff, or is that going to be for the community, or?
It will be for the staff.
Okay.
So we're taking kind of like a 2 or 3-pronged approach to that. We'll have the interviews with principals, but for the vision that you all have for your district, in working with Superintendent Collins, we thought it'd be nice if every staff person in your district, and I mean everyone, so it can be kitchen staff that are feeding the children and what they observe in the cafeteria, it's a survey for any person. It's choice. You don't mandate them to take the survey, but generally you get a lot of comments, and it just offers another perspective, so that way everybody.
That is a good
So
idea.
if I'm thinking of it as a school board member, and you, Jennifer mentioned grocery store, and say, hey, and so as a board member, you can say, well, there'll be a survey, so you'll be able to give your opinion. And it's a nice answer for the board to be able to say.
Sure.
To that end also, are you going to make any attempts to talk to the local city administration? We have an outdoor pool at Roberts Park, which just went under huge renovations, but it's clearly only open a very limited time during the year. Do you have any plans to reach out to the park board or the parks department at the city of Connersville to see what they like to use the high school pool, and they use it for a lot of things. Would you think that their input would be helpful?
I think, yes. When the school board and your administrative team believes that you first have your duties fulfilled in what you think, and how your first view is the students in the high school, I think interlocal cooperation is great. I think not at the expense of what the vision of your school district is and what you want for your children and those users first. If you reverse that, it can get cloudy in a hurry.
Yeah.
So generally what we always suggest is you get pretty close to the finish line and you know what you want to do, and usually it's a conversation not with us, although we can sit in the room. It would be maybe the board president and the superintendent and a couple other staff people. It's just a conversation. This is what we're thinking about doing. And then if it becomes reality where it's actually approved and funded, then we certainly are entertaining a conversation about if you came over and taught a kayaking class, how would that work? What kind of storage do you need is typically a conversation where we put those things that community and parks would want to use on occasion. Is that helpful? It's a good thought, probably as you get closer to the finish line.
In regards to the whole facilities study, you're pointing out, what the box is, the black box and all that. And my question about the ADA compliance in old buildings, there are going to be some things, I'm sure, that are genuine safety concerns, that are more than just outdated, it's functioning and it's good, but it should be, it's working, but it should be replaced. But then I would think there'd be a category that's actually a safety thing. Is that, no?
I feel like you're good stewards in that regard.
Okay.
We didn't see any.
I just didn't know if there would be things that are highlighted separately,
Yeah.
more so than just, I'd replace these
Yeah, I
because
think,
they're
I
old.
think what happens is, of course, you have a great facilities staff, we established that. But I also think you have very attentive principals and teachers who care. Some of them, many of them probably live in the community, right?
Yeah,
So,
right.
and so like when they see things, those are asked about. Now, it may be that you removed or resolved the safety issue in a way where we might say, when you go back in and do $30,000 worth of work, can we change what you did to be a different safety solution? Better or more permanent, if that's helpful. But no, we didn't, the one that would come to mind is, as Mike politely said, the unattractive football locker room. You don't want people climbing on rotted wood that's a roof or something like that.
Right.
Those are just some common sense things. But no, I would say generally you're doing a good job with that regard.
Maybe the changing the light bulbs we were talking about around the pool. Yeah.
The wood panels on the bleachers at the football field, that is a safety concern. Especially if you weigh 300 pounds.
Yeah, so that stuff usually gets vetted, just sort of baked into the final solutions that you come up with. Good questions.
On all three options, is the longevity about the same, no matter which option we would go with?
I would say, and the price reflects this, your middle, option 2 and option 3 is a bigger vision, longer term. option one is get in, get the important things resolved, and you'll be fine for.
Can you give me an estimate?
Generally, what people think is with good maintenance, and your pool is indicative of this, 15 to 20 years on the option 2 and 3. Option 1 is a frugal approach, so to speak, meaning we'll probably leave some things behind that you want to. Schools don't have ability to do rainy day funds anymore, but you'll have a set aside that says in 5 years, we're going to go back in and address this item, and that'd be option 1.
Yeah, and like Jim was saying, maybe like, for example, that the pool dehumidification system, time got done with option 1, and they only have 5 or 6 years of life left, and then that's a big expense to replace that.
Well, I think the other thing is that I was just whispering to Scott about is this reminds me of kind of like the field house. So if you went with option 3, you can also attract more competition. We lost sectional years ago because it went to New Palestine because they have a gorgeous pool. But also we're 6 lanes, so we'll never get those kinds of competitions with a 6-lane pool. That may be fine. We've done well without that. But just like the field house has opened up opportunities to bring events in there, that's, I think, a side, more than a side benefit. That's a big benefit. That's beyond our students.
It's like if you're visioning a pool and you do the stretch pool, remember the diving area becomes swim practices, master swimming for your community, older swimmers who are in high school, and they keep the deep end, then you can recreate in there. At the same time, practices are going on, things like that. So definitely with the stretch pool. So Jasper, Indiana is another community that built a stretch pool, and Dr. Roy, superintendent, her, and they envisioned it as not just the high school pool. They had these teaching lifeguarding for kids so they can go get summer jobs and all those different, even talk to healthcare providers to say, hey, do we need some ways to do some aquatic therapy? So I guess what I'm trying to say is if you vision option 2 or 3, you want to get that 20 years and think outside of just 6 lanes of kids swimming. By the way, my kids were track, and I always use the analogy, and my niece ran 2 mile. If you've been a track meet, it's like the last meet. It takes forever. They got to clear the track and the hurdles and everything's got to be cleared out. That's swimming and diving when you have your diving board in the lanes. They got to take the ropes off and everybody's waiting. Just
Yeah.
So, good questions. We're off to a great start.
There's a lot of work here. This is giving you a taste of where they're at, but there will be, we talked about meetings coming up. There may be a finance committee here at some point, because we do have the bond, the general obligation bond we're working on. And then we'll probably have 1 or 2 work sessions where you'll roll up your sleeves and really get into the nitty gritty. That's sort of my thinking this fall. So there's definitely a lot of thought here as you look through the information that they'll be bringing to us with information on how do we best use our funds as we have debt roll off and we take on this new debt to keep our taxpayer debt, what their payments are level. That's our goal here. So that could be captured.
Perfect. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Nice to see you. Have a great rest of your day.
All right.
This is so good.
Anytime I can use a multi-syllable word.
It's not back, it's not when something.
Okay. Scott had to step out for a minute with them, but we can move ahead. I'd like to seek a motion to approve the agenda as submitted and amended.
So moved.
Thank you, Chris. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Dennis. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Public comments on agenda items, seeing none. Move on to the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes from the executive meeting of 6/14/22 and the regular business meeting of 6/14/22. The personnel report, retirements, resignations, leaves of absence, etc. And the approval of June 2022 claims 62351 to 62567. I'd like to seek a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Mark. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Lori. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we'll go on to the action items, approval of new positions. Ms. Corsaro.
Thank you, Board President and Board. At your table tonight, you will see there is a memo. It looks like this. Last month, I discussed the direction in which we were going to move forward from the punitive style of discipline to more of a restorative type of discipline practice. We also had talked about making some additional supports in terms of the Spartan Learning Center. Last year was our first year to get that off the ground, and we felt like it was a very successful year. And we continue to grow that program, but in doing so, we felt like we needed to give a little bit more support. And so that's why we have moved Kelly Flum to the Director of Alternative Learning. And her goal will be to not only supervise SLC, but also work with our middle school population and trying to help some of those at-risk students get some things in place at the beginning of the year, and so that we don't let them flounder all year before we try to intervene. With COVID and a lot of the mental health issues that our kids are struggling with, they need more and more support. And our community resources are feeling that as well, and they're becoming stretched very thin. So this is an opportunity for us to continue to grow the Learning Center, but also put in a little bit more support for those middle school, or what we used to call bridge students. So Kelly is going to be moving to that position for this upcoming year. Her contract, it'll be an internal transfer, and everything will remain the same in terms of her contract. In addition to that, we talked last month about SEL and MTSS and implementing the restorative practice in all of our districts, our district schools. One thing that we want to make sure that we are doing is utilizing ESSER funds to put systems in place that are going to remain in place once that money is gone. We're on that second year of a 3-year cycle with those funds. And because the needs of our kids continue to increase, we need to make sure that we're building capacity in all of our buildings with all of our staff members, including our teachers, because they're feeling the stress of dealing with some of these high-need behavior kiddos in our classrooms. So by implementing this restorative practice, you are teaching teachers how to be more proactive in their classroom and putting more tools in their toolboxes to deal with this. We still need the counseling, we still need the social workers, but we need to help our teachers understand. They understand these kids are coming to them with these needs, but they're asking us, okay, I understand Johnny, blah, blah, blah. What do I do to continue teaching? That's where we are in this stage of SEL, MTSS. So this is an opportunity for us to give them those tools, to give them the support, and help them understand how to deal with some of these behaviors. Because you're not going to fix these behaviors, you have to learn to manage them. And that takes a whole team of people, including your counselors, your social workers, your teachers, your administrators. It's a whole, it's like that whole, it takes a village to raise kids. It's the same way with these kiddos. It takes a larger village. So Kristen Sherman, we got her from Richmond last year. She taught English at CMS. She has been working with Butler University, and she does the certification for teaching a teenage brain and the trauma-informed brain care. And she's really invested in this part of the SEL program. So what we have asked her to do is to transfer. She's going to do a half-time at SLC and teach English, half day at SLC, and then she's going to spend the other half of her day working to start implementing those restorative practices in CMS and then eventually into the high school. She brings a lot of credibility because she's been a middle school teacher. She has the training, the certification. She just has a lot of knowledge. We've already had a lot of teachers at the middle school go in and observe her in her classrooms. So she's already built that credibility to teacher. So we feel like this is going to be a really smooth transition for her. Also, she'll be with those kids that are bridge students for the 8th grade at SLC. So she'll know a lot of them already, but she can continue to build some relationships with those parents as well. The elementary gets a little trickier because we have 5 elementaries. So we are going to have one person be the restorative facilitator at the elementary level. And this name will probably ring a bell to most of you. Melissa Miller used to be a elementary teacher here at Frazee and Maplewood. Prior to that, she worked as a social worker and has 9 years of mental health experience. So she went back, she started in mental health, went back to become a teacher. And so we're going to, upon your approval tonight, have her work with the elementary teachers and helping them to build their tools and to work side by side with some of the Centerstone Meridian people, as well as those reset rooms, and helping them deal with some of the heavy hitters and the issues that they're dealing with on a daily basis. So I need for tonight just your approval to implement these 3 positions.
So you started off by saying something about we're in the second year of the ESSER funding.
Well, we're on ESSER 2, but
Oh.
CARES, ESSER 1 CARES has to be spent by this, is it September 30th?
It has to be encumbered by September
December-
30th and spent by December 15th.
Right, and then we move in, then there was ESSER 2,
Okay.
and then there was ESSER 3. ESSER 3 has a little bit more limitations because a lot of that money was earmarked for learning loss. And the CARES was more initiated for like those sprays and
sprayers
things
and
we
all that,
needed.
yeah.
So there's certain stipulations with each of those pots of money. But I think you see that money and you want to spend that money, and then we have the timeline to spend that money. But I think you have to be very careful that when that money's gone, that we don't just have to pull all of these people out from underneath of them and say, well, now we don't have the money to do that. And so we've got to build that capacity with our teachers, because the teachers and the kids are still going to be here even when the ESSER funding goes away. So how do we put systematic systems in place to support our teachers and build that capacity so that when those funds do go away, we have built a very strong foundation to continue moving forward?
I guess my question was, the way I heard you say that was that we'll have to be able to continue to pay these positions
Right.
outside of those funds that
Right.
will end at a certain point in time.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Right.
Yes.
And so you're confident that that's something that we
Yes.
can do? Well, I hear you that we can't afford not to do it. You know, I used to sit on the board and the teacher members of the board, former teachers, would, when they'd hear about a new program that would come up, it's like, okay, here's another one with a different name. And that's my only concern is that, and yes, restorative practices is now the buzzword, like SEL is the buzzword. And I'm not saying, I believe in all this, I think that it is really valuable. But I just want to be careful that we're not, and maybe we won't know until we do it, that if we're really, this problem that we have is so deep. I mean, and it's, we've talked about it, it's generational poverty, it's families that have just struggled for
Which is,
so long.
we're, the generational poverty and those things, we're not gonna be able to fix.
Yeah, right.
All we really have now is to be able to look at the data that I presented at the last
Right.
board meeting, which is the number of kids that we're putting out of school for out-of-school suspensions, in-school suspensions, and expulsions. So what we're doing is not working. You're right, new things come and go in education. I've been in education to
yeah.
know that they come
Seen
and
them
go.
all. Yeah.
But I don't really feel like this is something new. I feel like this is something that we've been building. We started with Ashley Steffi, the neuroeducator, when Scott and I came in. And that was to help our teachers understand how kids are different and what traumas and what things they're bringing. Like, this is their story. So that was our first thought. And then of course, we had COVID, so it slowed us down a little bit. Then we pulled in Meridian and Centerstone and provided that wraparound service for those kids. So now, to me, this is just the next step in that process. Now we have to teach our teachers how to manage. They had to understand what they were expected to deal with before they could manage it. And so I don't really feel like, yes, restorative practice is a buzzword, but it's been around. But I don't feel like it's something new we're adding. I feel like it's the next step in this MTSS process. We educate our teachers of this is the type of kid that's coming into your classroom. We've provided the support to the students Now we have to provide that support to the teacher. So to me, it's just building a stronger foundation.
Kim, and I taught middle school forever, you gotta know the hand that you're dealt. And the data-driven stuff, which told you where they were academically, was very helpful. But we have a different breed of kid now. And just having all that academic data, which was helpful or not, isn't enough to know how to get to these kids. Because if we can't relate to them, we don't know how to relate to these kids, then we can't reach the kids, we can't teach the kids. And the skills that I learned back when dinosaurs roamed the earth on how to manage a classroom don't work, because the kids are so different. So you have to be able to adapt, and I think it's not that the teachers don't want to know, it's like, give us some ideas, because this is so foreign, really, in so many respects to how we were taught to do things and our expectations. It's like, okay, it was enough to have plan A, B, and C. Well, now we're down to Z. And sometimes Z doesn't work. So, and I think for younger teachers, you learn a lot just by doing it over the years. So you kind of get better at it. But for these young people coming out and being put in the kind of positions that they're being put in, no wonder the average burnout now is between 3 and 5 years. And, we have to support these people in a way that they're going to accept, because you pull your hair out. A good teacher wants to do the best thing they can do for their kids. And sometimes it's like, what do I do? And if this provides that kind of support for them, that's fantastic.
You had said you had provided us with the data on the suspensions, expulsions, and all that. So I don't know how this I understand that this is going to help teachers in the classroom, so hopefully we have less referrals. But I also heard you say last time that you don't like all those expulsions and suspensions, and so on an administrative level, will administrators be a part of learning some of these?
Oh, absolutely. They're the key players.
Okay.
And we already have what we call an MTSS leadership team, where we have administrators from every level, and we've had that for 2 years. No, this is everybody, and that's why if you're going to do it, you can't just adopt little pieces of it. You have to adopt it all, because it's a mindset change. And it's not going to eliminate every expulsion. It's not going to eliminate, it's not saying we're going to not discipline kids. It's just what we know about our kids that are coming to us and the things that they're bringing, we have to approach it a little differently. And that's, to me, that's what good educators do. We don't continue to do the same thing because we've always done it. We look at what information we have, and we adjust, and we continue to grow. So to me, this is really us growing to meet the many needs that our community continues to struggle with. And we're not alone. I mean, it's everywhere. But I really am proud of this leadership team and the things that they're doing, because they're really on the cutting edge, and they really do what's best for kids.
Do we need to look at, you mentioned last time that zero tolerance doesn't really work.
Well, I think part of that will change as our administrators and our teachers understand this. The next step in that process would be handbooks and looking at how you deal with issues. But you have to have clear expectations of what you expect as a district before you start changing those procedures and policies. But I think that'll be the next step. Right now, those books are adopted by you guys. They are reviewed by our school attorney. And so we do have to follow them. But as we become more knowledgeable about what we believe and how we're going to move forward, we'll adjust those books to match that. That's when you should start to see a decrease in some of that suspension expulsion data. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to be a long process.
I think one of the questions that been raised with me is, well, you're letting kids now get by with everything. That's not true. There's discipline in the classroom, but how it is meted. So many people say, well, just kick the kid out of class. Well, that's exactly what they want, and if you're a good teacher, you don't do that unless you have to, because it just doesn't work. And we can't have, parents get frustrated, they say, well, my kid's behaving in a classroom, and they're in a classroom with kids that aren't behaving well, and this takes away the time of the teacher to deal with this student. And yeah, that's, as a public school system, we have to play with the hand that we're dealt, and this program would seem to teach us, give us better tools to deal with that hand that we're dealt, so we do have more time for everyone, and you don't have to focus on that one child that's trying to be disruptive at the expense of the rest of the kids. They says, well, why don't you just kick these kids out? Well, we can't. What does that accomplish? It doesn't accomplish anything. So it's very different, and we just can't do what we used to do. First of all, it didn't work, and second of all, the law won't let us most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah, there are some protections.
All right, I'd like to seek a motion to approve the new positions.
Do that motion.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ann. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Personnel report, Mr. Harris.
Okay, have personnel report, and then hopefully if it is approved, I have an introduction to make also. Recommending the hiring of Andrea Van Meter as athletic director at the high school. Recommendation for Jennifer Freilick as Title I pre-K teacher at Little Spartan Preschool. Recommendation to hire Melissa Miller as the restorative facilitator at the Spartan Learning Center as well as the elementary schools. Recommend Nicole Morris as special education teacher at Everton. Recommend Sawyer Reynolds as social studies teacher at CHS. Recommend Cameron Rao as social studies teacher at CHS. Under classified staff, recommendation to hire Pasha Ferris as the adult basic ed coordinator. And under extracurricular, recommendation to hire Ron Paxton as the assistant varsity football coach and Dalton Lee as an assistant football coach.
Okay, I'd like to seek a motion to approve the personnel report.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Lori. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Ann. Any discussion?
Yes, I just have a question. Are both of the social studies teachers first-year teachers?
No, neither one of them are first-year teachers. Sawyer is actually, he was supposed to do his student teaching last year, and his supervising teacher left in Kokomo. He finished out first semester, and then he taught second semester, so he's still early on in his career. And Cameron, this will be his second year here. He taught last year in Richmond.
Thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Mr. Harris.
Okay, it's my pleasure to introduce, and we'll call her to the podium as I speak here, Andrea Van Meter as the new athletic director for Connersville High School. Many of you may remember her as Andrea King. Andrea grew up in Connersville and graduated from Connersville High School a few years ago. During high school, Andrea was a multi-sport athlete, playing volleyball and basketball. She continued as a student athlete while she attended Butler University, where she received a volleyball scholarship. Academically, she graduated from Butler with her bachelor's degree in elementary education. Next, she earned her science endorsement from IUPUI. She continued her education with a master's degree from Earlham College and finished that with a master's degree in educational leadership from Western Governors University. Also of note, she has coached multiple sports, mainly volleyball and basketball. She taught in Richmond for 7 years and in Hagerstown for 9 years. In 2012, she was recognized as the Richmond High School Teacher of the Year, and in 2021, she was recognized as the Hagerstown District Teacher of the Year. I'm looking forward to watching her lead the athletic department, both academically and athletically, and I think her background also shows that she's not just an athlete, but truly a superior teacher, and look forward to her success as an administrator also. So, welcome, Andrea.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Do you have anything to say, a comment or two?
I don't know that I really have any comments. I mean, thank you for allowing me the opportunity and excited. Sorry, why do I was good like 2 hours ago. 2 hours ago I was good.
But your help.
It's exciting.
We're so excited to have you.
Thank you.
We're glad.
Welcome.
All right.
One other thing while we're still under personnel, just kind of a heads up for the board. Between tonight and our next board meeting, August the 9th, we've got a thing called the start of school. We have current openings, so we will keep you informed, but likewise, we will probably be placing some people in teaching positions and bring them back for formal approval at the board meeting in August. So, like I said, we're still trying to get these positions filled.
Thank you, Randy. Okay, and we will have Ms. Plum come up to the podium for Head Start bus purchase.
So living in the Head Start world temporarily until Mallory's key approval goes through. That's in Head Start's hands,
Yes.
so we're being very patient. I am seeking your approval to purchase an 18-passenger Head Start bus using the Head Start American Rescue funds in the amount of $91,072. I've worked with Daryl and he did the price comparison, and this is an allowable cost for the American Rescue for Head Start.
Okay, I'd like to seek a motion to approve the Head Start bus purchase. Thank you. Thank you, Chris. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Dennis. Any discussion?
Kelly, is this an additional bus or is this a replacement?
This will be replacing one of our buses that has seen its better days.
Okay. Now, how many buses are there?
5.
5, okay. All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. And Head Start door replacement, which we've heard about.
Yes.
I feel
So-
like a lot. I don't know.
Last month, I did bring to you another door that was replaced. Unfortunately, this quote wasn't finished by the company yet, so I wasn't able to get that to you on time. But I am seeking your approval to replace the exterior door to the gym where our Head Start car riders enter in the amount of $7,153.78. This is an additional safety concern. That door is used multiple times a day with beginning arrival, dismissal, and midday. Maintenance has had their eye on this door for a while and do all the repairs to keep it safe and secure, but it's time to replace this door.
Absolutely. Okay, I'd like to seek a motion for the Head Start door replacement.
I so move.
Thank you, Ann. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Thanks, Lori. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you.
I think there are only 20 more doors.
I'm feeling like a
You
little
won't be
slack
dealing
line in
with the
replacing
brilliant-
those doors. All right, CHS Cafeteria flooring, Mr. Harris.
Okay, moving on. I'm requesting approval to purchase and install new flooring in the Connersville High School serving area of the cafeteria. The cost of the project would be $37,000 from Wholesale Carpets. This is kind of one of the early phases of the high school renovation, but this is in the serving area.
Okay, I'd like to seek a motion to approve the CHS Cafeteria flooring.
I'll make that motion.
Thanks, Mark. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Jeremy. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Now we're on to cafeteria prices, Mr. Harris.
Next, I'm requesting approval from the board for cafeteria pricing for the 22-23 school year. If we remember back with COVID, the last time we charged for cafeteria food, I believe was maybe it would have been, March 2020 it started, but then we were out of school for the remainder of that year, so really it was the start of the school year in 2020. And so we have now went 2 full school years without charging any student for normal lunches and breakfast, but the USDA has not continued that. So beginning with the school year, our elementary students, because of our poverty rate, they will still not be charged for a school lunch or school breakfast, but it changes a little bit at our high school level, so I'm recommending there that for lunch, secondary students be charged $2.80. They also will receive a free breakfast if they choose to pick that up. And then adult staff and guests would be charged $4.60 for lunch or $2.50 for breakfast. So that's my recommendation, working with Chartwell's and Cafeteria Services.
And middle school's gonna.
Middle school, yes.
Also.
Yes, all secondary
Okay.
students, so it's middle and high school.
Okay.
And for those people that received free or reduced price lunch prior to COVID
Would still.
would still get it.
Those students that still fall under the free and reduced lunch would still fall under that.
But will they have to fill out the paperwork again? I guess that's the next
It
question.
depends on whether they are already approved through SNAP
SNAP,
and Direct Serve and that. If not, then yes, they need to fill
So
out
if
the paperwork.
they're already getting SNAP, then they don't need to be concerned about that.
Correct.
Okay.
And they will be, if you remember, I think it was last month, I showed you a preliminary letter
Right.
that will be sent out. That is part of the registration information for the secondary students. So all of the
Okay.
students in secondary, as they register for the school year, will be seeing that letter as part of the paperwork also.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to seek a motion then to approve the cafeteria prices for 2022-23.
Go ahead. I so move.
A second? Thank you, Jeremy. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising your hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Repair and maintenance of gas and diesel tanks.
This is one based on inspection of our transportation facility, our gas and diesel tanks. They found some things where we need to make some repairs and updates there. But I'm requesting approval to proceed with the quote of $28,545 from Williams, Beck and Hess to provide the maintenance work on the diesel and gas tanks at the transportation facility.
Okay, I'd like to seek that motion.
I'll do that motion.
Thank you, Jeremy. Do I hear a second? Thank you, Dennis. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by raising their hand. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, persons wishing to make the board aware of suggestions, ideas, or comments may address the board at this time. Comments which involve personnel or students must be discussed in private. Seeing none, we will move on to superintendent discussion group reports, principal director reports, director of operations.
I think like I just spoke.
You did.
Thanks for reminding me. Few items here in your packets have the fund summary for at the conclusion of June. We continue to be in good condition as far as the finances go and those kind of things. Leading on from the fund report is a calendar, or the budget calendar for the 2023 calendar year. But at the next board meeting, I will be requesting permission to advertise for the budget. Then the advertising will take place during the month of August. At our September board meeting, we will have the public hearing on the budget, as well as a public hearing on capital projects plan and bus replacement plan. Taxpayers then have 10 days of which they can, or excuse me, 7 days that they could object to the budget. Then I will be back to you then at the October board meeting to approve the budget, capital projects plan, bus replacement, and all of those things necessary to put us in good stead for a budget for 2023. Kind of in addition, and that's really just an outline, but I want to go back and just restate some things that Scott already talked about. With the presentation with Gibraltar, I think that's going to lead to probably bigger discussions than what we handle in just a normal board meeting. So we will probably be looking at a meeting or two of the finance committee to discuss some of the things that the finance will do. and as well as looking at a possible work session for, what does this pool stuff mean? And they're going to be at every board meeting from now to the end of the year. And as they get more details, I think we've got to look at that. Where do we go with it? I know I've seen preliminary documentation from attorney to look at GOB bond for this year. And that will come to you in the September board meeting. So there's going to be a lot of financial stuff coming up in the next 2 to 3 months. All for any questions on those, and then just really for notation, we brought you a spreadsheet in May and just an update on transfers that we've made between positions also you have at your place.
Thank you, Randy. Kim, Assistant Superintendent report.
Okay, you had several handouts from me. I just kind of wanted to circle back. When we did the approval of the handbooks, we had talked about we were going to do some building time changes. And so just for your information, these will be the new start and end times for all of our schools. Just thought it would be nice for you to know. We had talked about adding and subtracting time, but this is just for your information to let you know. And then the second thing is the SRE schedule. I know that it was something that was brought up, and it's something that's at a building level that's discussed, but I felt like since it was brought to the board, that we would at least circle back around and let you know how that was resolved. And so for the upcoming school year, we will continue to have SRE at the end of the school day, and I know Mike met with his leadership team and teachers today and ways to make sure that we're moving forward with that in a successful manner. So again, these are just kind of for you to know information, just circle back because it was brought to you. And then the final thing is just some August events. We will have our new teacher academy August 1st and 2nd. And I will be sending you an invite for breakfast. We have breakfast on the 1st. It'll be at the Spartan Learning Center. So if you're available that day and you can come and just kind of introduce yourselves and socialize with them for a little bit. 8:30 to 9 is our kind of meet and greet time. So I'd appreciate it if you have the opportunity to do that. And then Scott is having our back to school meeting on the 4th, and that's at the CHS auditorium at 2:30. And then I put really big, the first student day is August the 8th. So this is just for you as
And you guys here in admin, you guys are doing a little song and dance routine, right, at that back to school meeting?
absolutely.
Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, don't let the cat out of the bag.
Okay.
I heard
It's
that
surprise.
2 of our board members are working on a number 2, yeah.
Chris and Dennis.
Ebony and Ivory.
We will do it.
Yes.
So it'll be an interesting school meeting. That's all I have on that one.
I hear a tutu was involved in it? Maybe.
I'm out,
Ready
Leslie.
for that.
I don't think the world's ready for that.
They are either.
I don't think my wife would let this
It would be an interesting way to start off the school.
You never know.
Okay, superintendent's report.
Well,
Follow
thanks,
that,
Kim.
Scott.
Kim had told me she was, I don't know if I can, but I want to say welcome, Andrea. I love what I've heard from her so far, and, and remembering our past too. Celebrating our past, but looking forward to our future, and that means a lot. I know Mike's excited to have her on board, and excited to have Mike too. Kelly, we hope you're done with Head Start soon. We hope that is, but.
We will miss you.
I will always support Head Start.
Yeah, you will.
She's all.
She and Mallory have been working a lot together already, but I think we've got, we have a few positions to fill, but of my career, I'm more concerned than I've ever been with the teaching profession and the shortages. When I hear of the Avon not getting any application for positions at Avon High School for math positions, that's worrisome. So it's hitting everywhere. The wealthier schools that pay way more than a lot of the rural schools, there's just a shortage. And so I appreciate what we're doing. I'm excited to get Melissa back here with her background, but we've got to equip our teachers because college didn't prepare teachers. And I said this in the last meeting, we're doing more than just educate. If we just had to educate kids and teach them content, it'd be a different world, but it's that whole child, and we're wearing 50 hats, teachers are, and we've got to take care of our teachers too, and I said that before. And so I'm excited about it.
And not just our teachers,
Our staff.
our support staff. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
there's shortages
They're taking
everywhere. Appreciate your
Thank
bus
you.
drivers,
All
launch
staff.
workers.
It takes a village.
And the bus drivers, a lot of times, the first ones to take, if that child had a bad day, or they're the first ones to pick up on it. So we have to provide that support and training with our, and we've done some things over the years, but that has to continue as well, equipping them. Because the days of just raising your voice and saying, sit down, a lot of kids, that's what they hear all the time.
Right.
And that triggers a lot of kids. So we've got to be able to support our staff. But I'm excited about the year, and we've had several new families contact Cindy here in the last couple of weeks, and I think it's gonna be a great year, so we're
We've got some
excited.
new administrators. Excited about that.
So,
All right, thank you. For the good of the cause. I just wanted to make sure, and you briefly touched on it, but I have seen on social media, the principals have all been great. They've been posting their back to school stuff, their back to school times, and I don't think the memo got out to parents in the same way, even though it's been brought up and discussed. So, hopefully parents are getting that information and they know, and there are minimal shifts in the time, but I realize for parents who have a tight schedule with work, that even 5 minutes changes, for some folks. So hope everybody can get that information so that your kiddos can start on time.
Also with the registration for the middle school and for the high school, if parents are having difficulty logging on, they can go to the school during those periods of times and get the help that they need, because it's been my experience of helping with registration at the middle school. First of all, the 7th graders are lost, period. And there are a lot of grandparents that come in and they don't have that information that the parent might have. Well, we just need to register the kid for school. So let that be really clear that if you need help on the secondary level, you can go to the buildings during those times and get the help that you need and get your questions answered and the like.
Thank you.
Anybody else for the good of the cause? Okay, Mr. Hunt.
I so move that we have a organized dismissal.
Second. All those in favor signify by raising your hand.
And lastly, we are proud of the